Hello, Kehilat Darchei Tzion. We're in Erev Shabbat, Parashat Shemot. In our story, we read about the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe, in this story, is the first one to be named. It's a famous idea that when you read the parasha, you see that everyone else is not described by their name. You have an Ishmi Bet Levi, you have an Ishami Bat Levi instead of Amram and Yocheved. You have Achoto, his sister, instead of Miriam. You have Bat Paro, and she doesn't have a name. And of course, we have her servants that also do not have names. And the first one, as we said, has the name is Moshe Rabbeinu. But I want to try to understand what the Parashat is telling us. Of course, on one hand, you can say it's putting the spotlight on Moshe. But I think maybe it's telling us something else. Maybe it's telling us something about these people. These people are all described by certain roles, by certain places in society that they belong. An Ishmi Bet Levi and an Ishami Bat Levi. That they belong to Am Yisrael. They belong to one of the Shvatim that came to Egypt. They're not in their homeland, and they're being enslaved, and in a very problematic situation. And maybe the natural thing is to give up. Chazal tell us that people got divorced, people didn't get married, didn't have children. And this couple, these people, are willing to break the framework of being an Ishmi Bet Levi and a Bat Levi and get married and have a child. And this child that was born should be killed, but he's hidden. And then he's put in the Nile, and his sister, she's just watching over to know what will happen. It seems like a very passive situation. She's standing from afar, watching. But suddenly, when she sees Bat Paro, how Bat Paro responds to this child, she takes an initiative. She doesn't just keep her role as a watcher, but rather she becomes someone who has responsibility, and she goes and decides to offer Bat Paro to bring a woman to nurse this child. She takes responsibility. She doesn't stay away from this Bat Paro. She doesn't stay an enslaved child from Am Yisrael, but rather a young woman that has responsibility and has her own ideas. And Bat Paro, of course, being part of the palace, being part of the family of Paro, you would have expected her to see who this child is and kill him or ignore him. But instead, she takes responsibility. She decides to save this child. She lets him grow up in her house. She is like a mother to him in later stages. That is an amazing change. It's an amazing ability to leave where you are and become someone completely different than what was expected of you. And this is the background from which Moshe, when he leaves the palace and he sees Am Yisrael, he sees them as his brothers and he takes responsibility. He doesn't get accustomed to the place where he's growing up, but rather he continues the path of his parents, of his sister, and of his new mother, of Bat Paro. And he breaks the framework that he belongs in and takes responsibility over the situation. He becomes someone else. Other than teaching us the importance of taking responsibility and of not being passive, I think we can learn also something else. In our society, people many times tend to think according to where they belong in society. What group do we belong to? What the group believes? What are the actions that the group usually does? And suddenly we're told, wait, you can behave differently. Think for yourselves. Take responsibility for yourselves. Behave in another way. And that is the path in which people like Moshe Rabbeinu are born in. Bezrat Hashem, we should all hear B'sorot Tovot, Yeshuot v'Nechamot. Everything should, I hope, Bezrat Hashem, turn out for the best. Shabbat Shalom.